Welcome back to the channel. I'm Foreman, and in this video I'm going to be talking about how you can save money whilst finding the best broadband deals for you, because at the moment everything is rising. Recently we had a message saying that broadband was going to rise from about £48 to £68, which is quite frankly ridiculous and well above the rate of inflation. If you're a regular viewer of the channel, then you are aware that I typically talk about investment content and stocks. However, this has very much come to the forefront of my intention, but it doesn't mean I'm going to stop there. I'm also going to be talking about energy prices, energy caps as well in the future, but today I'm just going to talk about broadband. Now, I'm going to assume that at the moment you already have an internet connection, hence why you're watching this. So you are someone that's had a broadband package and that they've actually said that they're going to increase the price. The worst thing you can do in this situation, in my opinion, is just stay with them and let the price rise, because they are so easy to negotiate with. These brands are paid to retain their customers. So if you tell them that you're planning to leave and you go straight to retentions, which is their department dedicated to keeping customers within the brand, then you can obviously get a much better deal than the one you're faring with. Because you may have noticed, if you go on these websites for some of these internet service providers, that they're offering a much cheaper price for new customers. You can leverage this to your advantage and therefore keep a much lower broadband rate. Now, there are a few things I'm going to quickly go over, and then I'm going to look at some of the deals and what could be quite effective, and some interesting websites that I think are quite useful in doing this. Ultimately, the whole idea here for me is reduce the broadband as much as possible, maintain the benefits that are only needed for myself, for instance, and at the same time therefore have more disposable money to therefore use on either a more lavish lifestyle, or in my situation, more in investments, for example. So if we look at the internet browser here, I'm going to show you what types of UK broadband suppliers there are. And it says who are the major ISPs, being internet service providers with a large UK national coverage. Now, these are the brands that you likely already know of, and these are what we're going to use in our arsenal. So you've got things like BT, Sky, Virgin Media, Now, Plusnet, Vodafone, John Lewis Broadband, and TalkTalk. Now, they did mention here that they find Vodafone quite interesting, and that's because Vodafone has a partnership with City Fibre. City Fibre is interesting is because they are the UK's largest alternative provider of wholesale fibre broadband network infrastructure. Right, I didn't understand half of that, but what you want to understand here is that BT Openreach is the largest broadband network provider, and therefore Vodafone uses both Openreach and City Fibre networks to provide its internet services. So one may be able to infer that they may have a better coverage and or service, but again, it very much depends on location, which does bring me to a point here. You can have all of these brands here, but sometimes if you're in a poor location, you're simply not going to get good internet. At a younger age, I had problems with this because we were in a village, a very small village that was quite rural and therefore didn't have good internet connection. In fact, the internet connection was likely better if you'd have just went to a neighbouring town and connected to free Wi-Fi. It was a significant difference, and I remember download speeds of something like 1 megabit per second, which obviously is quite good if you go back 30 odd years, but we didn't. This was about 15 years ago, so it's not that stark of a contrast. Regardless, area is important. For some people, if you're living in a more rural area or if you're off the grid, then these sort of internet service providers may not be for you, and perhaps the likes of Starlink would be of interest, which is the offering by Elon Musk. However, Starlink is very expensive for what you get, but then again, obviously, you're able to roam pretty much freely with that. So keep this in mind. The brands here, BT, Sky, and all of these are what we're going to want to build our arsenal. And before we obviously jump in and we want to call this brand and say, hey, look, I'm not happy with this deal you're offering me, I'm going to leave, we want to know one thing. We want to prepare ourselves mentally. So if you don't already know, it's worth knowing the difference between megabits and megabytes. Now, 8 megabits is equal to a megabyte. You may go, what's a megabit and what's a megabyte? Well, this is the advertised download speed, and we'll go on more into how much you really need, but this is typically what these broadband providers use to therefore basically describe their service. Myself personally, I'm on quite a high number, which is 200 megabits per second, which you would divide that number by 8, which gives you 25 megabytes per second. If you think of an app that you're trying to install on your phone or a program that you're installing on your computer, and let's say it is 100 megabytes large, it would therefore take 4 seconds at the download speeds to download that app, which obviously is quite a luxury and isn't explicitly needed. However, in my situation as a content creator, I do need higher upload speeds, especially when uploading in 4K resolution to YouTube, which is the difference between waiting 30 minutes and 2 hours for a video to be uploaded, where I could be doing other things, or for instance turn the computer off and be out of the house, for instance, without wasting too much power, with obviously prices rising. So you want to know what these mean, and you want to know what is effective for you. Now on MoneySavingExpert, they mention if you really have a need for the fastest speeds, and this is a very good point. They mentioned that there are 4 different brands, or let's say 4 different categories for internet speeds. You've got standard, fast fiber optic broadband, super fast optic, and ultra fast fiber optic. Now, typically with standard, they mention that this is probably alright for someone that just needs basic web tasks. So if you're the kind of person that sits down and goes, yeah, all I need is just to type some emails, maybe scroll through Twitter, something a bit easy, then this would be quite good for you. You wouldn't need much more than this, and this is typically the cheapest price. The average one that pretty much anyone would want if they've got perhaps 1 or 2 people in the household, and obviously they've got phones, gadgets, all of that, is the fast fiber optic broadband, which has a speed typically of between 35 to 36 megabits per second, which again you divide by 8 to get the megabytes per second, which is how you convert it into file sizes, for instance. Now, as I say personally, I'm in the bottom category because I do need ultra fast optic broadband for the nature of what I do, but it's worth being aware of this and knowing what your needs are. If you're someone, as I say, just browses the web, watches a bit of Netflix, then you're not going to need much more than fast fiber optic broadband. But if you're someone that streams in 4K resolution, which I don't even think is that common, someone that downloads a lot of files, you're working from home quite often, and you don't want any delay in the time for it, then obviously you're going to be looking more at the super fast and ultra fast fiber optic broadband. Now, there is a few more points here that are relevant from MoneySavingExpert, and they mention you can get broadband without the phone line, but it will likely cost more. And this is a very good point, and this is because your internet package, or not your internet package, but the way your data is transmitted into your house is through the phone line, and therefore it works out cheaper for them to just give you a phone as well, in the hopes, obviously, you end up using that and obviously spending money on that phone and therefore contributing more revenue to their business. One more thing is that if you don't want to switch, they also mention here that broadband and phone firms are one of the easiest to haggle with, and this is exactly where I'm going to be going with this next stage. So we know what megabits, we know what megabytes are, we know typically what the broadband providers that are pretty much across the UK. We now want to research these. So I've jumped on Virgin Media's website here. It's just Virgin Media broadband and phone. I've just scrolled down. I've not narrowed down by postcode, obviously for location reasons and the fact I am obviously on YouTube, which would make this a little bit different. But it mentions here there's a few deals here. So they've got M100 fiber broadband. I'm going to guess that is megabits of 100. Let's have a look. Yes, so that's their average download speed, and that's probably the amount they're trying to advertise to you. And then they've got broadband and phone deal here. £31 a month. You have a 213 megabit average download speed, which is what I have. Don't get me wrong, this isn't super flashy, ultra premium end, but it is certainly a lot on the higher end for what you may need. I need it for obviously the upload speed here, which is very important. And the phone benefits and other things are really amongst yourself. There are some great comparison websites like MoneySavingExpert here, where you can scroll down, you can see the cheapest one for what you can get, but it should be noted here that despite them saying that this is like an 18-month contract, let's have a look here. So it says an 18-month contract here. I don't get how they're allowed to do this, but they're allowed to raise prices during the period of this contract. So it is likely not fixed, and it's worth very much reading into the contract like you likely can here and seeing really what's going on. But again, I'm not signed in or anything like that, and I can't dive too deep. So do keep that in mind. Prices will rise, and that is where you're able to haggle, or in my opinion, I like the word hustle, and really bring the prices down. So your broadband provider, let's say they're trying to charge you £50 a month for 50 megabits of data, and you've looked at now at Virgin Media and you've noticed actually for £25 a month I can get double that in internet speed and a phone. Obviously after 18 months it becomes £51 a month. It's worth keeping an eye on that, but at that 18-month period you then just go and look to switch to another brand. Typically it doesn't take that long for brands to switch over, and in fact it can take around about 2 to 3 hours, as they don't really need anyone on site, so you won't be without internet for too long. So it's very much a game of who has the best deals. Now, if we go actually into Sky Broadband here, which I've not really looked into, let's compare their packages. I've just clicked into the website. I'm literally pretty much on the main screen, and they have a few things like ultra fast, £35 a month, 145 megabits a second. Upload speeds are actually more preferable than likely than what I have here for £35 a month. And this says that you also always read the small print because you never know. Provided by internet calls, prices may change during your contract. You see this here. Setup is £20. It's ultra fast. It's available to 30% of UK homes, or ultra fast plus is available to about 20%. So obviously you're going to have to make sure that it hits your location. But again, this is £35 a month. If you've just been charged £50 a month for half the data of that, you've now have got a weapon to therefore use. You can say, well, actually, Sky has offered me this, dependent on your location. They've said that actually you can get 145 megabits per second, and actually let's just say I'm with TalkTalk have actually, obviously you're paying too much for this and I'm going to leave. You threaten the idea of leaving, and this gives you leverage. Your custom is wanted towards them because they, the provider, make money from you. They obviously provide the services, and therefore you being a constant subscriber of these services brings them revenue. This is what they need. So therefore, they very likely have a budget. This budget is in place so that they're able to effectively basically reward customers that are a bit more keen, a bit more paying attention, because a lot of people don't pay attention to their bills and just go, oh, well, it's gone up, what can I do? With phone contracts with broadband, you can very much negotiate these, and you can threaten to switch elsewhere, which ends up with a more favourable price, and that is where it's really important. So here we've got, let's say, Sky Ultra Fast, £35 a month. We've got Virgin Media, £31 a month, even faster speeds. Now, if you haven't already got a broadband, now this is where I'd be talking to them, seeing what kind of offers they have on the phone, or obviously using the website such as MoneySavingExpert, which I will link in the description down below. You can see some very attractive offers here. Again, once you have these attractive offers, you've written them down or you've stored them in your brain perhaps, however is easiest for you, then you want to use this when you're in that phone call. Knowing this information, it means you're in a well-placed position, because what they're going to do is they're going to try and confuse you, much like energy prices are priced in kilowatt hours so that the number looks smaller and it's a lot harder to track, because quite frankly, who really works out in kilowatt hours aside from the energy companies? Once you understand each of the individual points of what they offer, you're able to therefore be more clear, more coherent, and understand more clearly and know exactly what you're looking for. So if they say, well, no, you don't actually need this package, you could probably do with this, or if they start trying to add other benefits on that you don't necessarily need, you therefore have the power and you're able to contest them on the phone call and say, hey, look, I don't need that. Sky's offered me broadband and a phone for this exact price. Is not what I want. So if you're not going to offer me this, then I'm going to leave. Or for instance, if this is the first time you're calling up, well, thank you for your time, but I'm going to call elsewhere. Don't hang up immediately. See if they've got anything else on the line. And you may find that they call back in a few days or even a few hours, perhaps, or a few minutes. It could be worth doing that because, as I say, your custom is what they're after. Your leverage is your attention. And this applies to a lot of things in life. But with these broadband companies, your leverage is who you're with. So if you threaten to move elsewhere, as I've repeated consistently, and I really hope this point comes through, then you're able to effectively find the best broadband deal for yourself. And then that way, each time they try and rise your prices, providing you're not locked into a contract with exit fees, keep an eye out for exit fees, that's typically the case with mobile phone contracts, then you can therefore save as much money as possible, continue hustling, and perhaps invest in the stock market, which is what I do on this channel. So if you're interested in stock market investing content in the UK, I will be discussing more personal finance content in the UK, then definitely click the subscribe button down below. Thank you for watching. I'm Osborne Foreman. If you'd like to know how to make £1,000 a month via dividend income through the stock market, then click the card at the top right of the video. Have a fantastic day.